separate from reality.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed.
So what's your podcast about?
Oh, it's about psychology, true crime, supernatural stuff, the occasional paranormal or philosophical rant.
Well, maybe I could check it out sometime.
We're all bored now. But has it ever occurred to you that the process that creates this boredom that we see in the world may very well be a self-perpetuating, unconscious form of brainwashing created by a world totalitarian government, and that all of this is much more dangerous than one thing? And it's not just a question of individual survival, but that somebody who's bored is asleep, and somebody who's asleep will not say no.
Believe whatever you want to believe.
How do things seem to be 40 years from now?
It's no musical comedy, David.
We're living in some kind of Orwellian nightmare.
After all you've seen, after all the evidence, why can't you believe?
Welcome to Truth and Shadow, your guide through the supernatural. I am your host, BT, and this is a Shadow Short. Let's navigate the unknown on this brief journey into the depths of mystery. There is a reason certain stories refuse to disappear. Certain names return time again and again in conversation, in memes, late-night discussions, in quiet admissions between friends trying to describe a feeling they can't quite articulate. People reference Philip K. Dick or speak casually about living in the Matrix, or describe reality using imagery drawn from cosmic dread, like that from H.P. Lovecraft. These references are no longer confined to science fiction communities or literary discussions. They have entered ordinary language. People use them to explain work, politics, technology, media, and even personal identity. The question worth asking is not whether these stories are accurate descriptions of reality. The question is, why are so many people instinctively reaching for them at all? Human beings do not collectively gravitate toward narratives without some kind of cause. Cultural symbols spread when they successfully described a shared experience. When millions of unrelated individuals independently say that the world feels like a simulation, or that reality itself seems manipulated, they are attempting to articulate and communicate a psychological condition using the closest available vocabulary. Fiction has become our shorthand for our lived perception. Philip K. Dick's work centered on a single persistent concern: uncertainty about what is real. His characters often discovered that memories could be altered, identities fabricated, authorities unreliable, environments artificially constructed. The emotional core of these stories was not technological fear, but epistemological instability. Readers recognized the anxiety of discovering that perception might not correspond directly with truth. Today, that anxiety feels familiar because modern life increasingly separates experience from verification. Information now reaches individuals primarily through mediated channels. News, social interactions, cultural understandings are all filtered through digital systems, selecting content according to engagement patterns. Algorithms. And algorithms determine visibility. Platforms using algorithms prioritize emotional response. Individuals encounter curated streams that are designed to hold their attention rather than establish a communal understanding. As a result, confidence is objective, and when it is, reality weakens. People struggle to determine which claims are trustworthy, which images are authentic, which narratives were constructed for persuasion. This condition is so close to the problem Dick explored decades ago. People recognize themselves in those fictional scenarios because the underlying psychological tension has become common. The concern is not that reality is literally simulated, could be, but that access to reality increasingly depends upon intermediaries whose operations remain opaque. Individuals sense distance between lived experience and authoritative explanation. The continued popularity of The Matrix arises from a related intuition. The film presents a world in which ordinary human perception conceals deeper structures governing existence. Its central idea resonates because many individuals experience modern systems as invisible yet powerful. Economic conditions shift due to decisions made far away. Employment prospects change according to global market forces. Social reputation can be altered rapidly through online dynamics beyond personal control. Large technological infrastructures, they shape daily life without requiring conscious participation from those who are affected by it. People relate to the concept of awakening within the matrix because it expresses frustration with environments that feel predetermined. The metaphor captures the suspicion that individuals operate within frameworks they did not choose and barely even understand. Again, the appeal lies not in literal belief but psychological recognition. The narrative articulates a sense that autonomy may be constrained by structures operating beyond immediate perception. Lovecraft's continuing influence answers different aspects of our modern existence. His stories emphasized humanity confronting realities vastly larger than human comprehension. The fear involved was not so much as physical danger, but as a cognitive form of limitation. The characters would encounter systems or entities so complex that understanding would produce distress or insanity. Contemporary society increasingly generates similar feelings through scale alone. The global communication network, the artificial intelligence developments, the climate systems, and all international economies operate at levels exceeding individual comprehension. And that means people encounter consequences generated by processes too large to visualize. That these decisions are affecting millions that just arise from technology. Responsibility has become abstract. Control has appeared distant. The emotional response resembles what Lovecraft described: awareness of participation within systems exceeding personal understanding. When these three cultural references converge, Philip K. Dick, The Matrix, Lovecraft, they collectively describe a single modern condition. People feel uncertain about truth, constrained by invisible structures, and surrounded by systems too complex to grasp entirely. Fiction provides language capable of expressing this combination of uncertainty, limitation, and scale. Importantly, the persistence of these narratives shows something constructive rather than purely negative. Humans have used stories to interpret transitions of time. To talk about periods of rapid technological and social change, historically produced symbolic frameworks helping populations process unfamiliar conditions. Industrialization produced Gothic literature, exploring anxiety about mechanization. Nuclear development generated existential fear, and crafted some of the best science fiction that examines survival and responsibility known to date. The digital age has produced narratives centered on simulation, artificial intelligence, and hidden structures because, well, those themes correspond to contemporary transformation. The human response to uncertainty consistently includes a search for meaning, looking beyond our immediate condition. Even when people describe reality using dystopian imagery, they rarely conclude that meaning is impossible. Instead, these stories often involve a kind of awakening, some kind of resistance, or maybe even a discovery of a deeper truth. The enduring appeal of these narratives, of these structures, suggests that individuals believe clarity is attainable despite all of the confusion. I think it's a persistence of hope, and I think it deserves some serious attention. If modern experience truly eliminated meaning or agency, cultural imagination would likely reflect resignation rather than a growing sense of awakening. Instead, popular narratives repeatedly emphasize recognition and recovery. Characters discover deception, but respond by seeking authenticity. They confront overwhelming systems, yet attempt moral action within them. This pattern shows that humans interpret uncertainty not as some kind of final defeat, perhaps as a way to dig deeper, to find more meaning, to seek true understanding. The language of simulation or cosmic indifference functions as a diagnostic tool rather than an actual conclusion. People sense a misalignment between technology and human flourishing. And stories, they provide frameworks for exploring that tension. Throughout history, societies have expressed similar intuitions, relying on religious or philosophical language. Traditions described reality as partially obscured, requiring some kind of moral or intellectual awakening. We have concepts such as enlightenment or revelation, or even conversion, that all reflect that perception alone might not reveal ultimate truth. We have modern technological metaphors that update this long-standing human concern without actually replacing it. So the danger arises when metaphor becomes literal belief. When we view institutions or technologies as omnipotent, risks surrendering our human responsibility. Systems influence behavior but do not eliminate agency. Economic structures depend upon participation. Political institutions correspond to organized population. Technological tools reflect human design choices. Complexity may obscure influence, but it doesn't remove it. So trying to understand why people relate to Dick or The Matrix or Lovecraft clarifies some important points. It's that these stories resonate because individuals feel disoriented within rapidly evolving systems. They suspect that appearances alone do not explain underlying reality, yet the continued search for explanation demonstrates a confidence that truth exists and that truth can be pursued. Human beings consistently resist purely deterministic interpretations of existence. Individuals continue forming ethical judgments, creating communities, pursuing justice even when systematic pressures discourages such efforts. This behavior suggests that humans experience themselves as moral agents rather than as some passive component within an impersonal machine. I'm talking about hope. And hope persists precisely because individuals believe reality contains intelligible order beyond this temporal confusion. Cultures have described this grounding reality using many names. Truth, reason, the good, the absolute, creator, source, ultimate reality, God, Father. Each represents an attempt to articulate confidence that meaning does not originate solely from social construction or even technological capability. All of the modern dystopian imagery indirectly reinforces this intuition, oddly enough. If reality were entirely meaningless, narratives of awakening would not resonate. The desire to escape illusion presupposes belief in genuine truth. The fear of manipulation presupposes the value of authenticity. Skepticism testifies to commitment toward discovering what is real. Consequently, the widespread use of science fiction and cosmic horror imagery reveals less about despair than about moral awareness. People sense discrepancy between human dignity and systems that sometimes treat individuals as data points or economic units. Cultural storytelling provides some kind of language for articulating this discomfort while preserving hope that the truth is out there. One of the most influential real-world developments shaping how people currently experience reality is the ongoing transformation of public trust caused by artificial intelligence. Over the past year, several confirmed incidences have demonstrated how easily AI can imitate reality at scale. In the United States, voters received robocalls using a perfectly cloned voice of a nationally recognizable political leader telling citizens to stay home rather than participate in an election. The recording sounded authentic because it reproduced tone, cadence, speech patterns taken from real public appearances. Many recipients believed it immediately. Only later was it revealed that such a message had never been spoken by that person. The event forced election officials to confront a new problem. Misinformation no longer requires persuasion when it can impersonate reality itself. At the same time, AI-generated images connected to international conflicts have repeatedly circulated across social media platforms, showing explosions, military actions, or humanitarian crises that never occurred. Some images portrayed fabricated battlefield victories. Others depicted fake atrocities designed to provoke outrage. Millions viewed and shared these images before fact-checkers could even respond. Even after corrections were issued, belief often persisted because the emotional reaction formed well before verification arrived. The consequence is larger than political confusion. A foundational assumption of modern society is being challenged. The belief that sensory evidence provides reliable access to truth. For generations, photographs, recorded speech, video footage functioned as forms of proof. Courts relied on them. Journalism depended on them. Public accountability required them. Today, those same forms of evidence can be generated artificially by anyone with any kind of consumer-level technology. People are increasingly questioning whether viral videos are staged, whether speeches are truly delivered, or whether dramatic events unfolding online are actually happening. Conversations now begin with skepticism rather than some kind of shared acceptance of facts. Families have been arguing over competing versions of events, not because one side lacks intelligence, but because both sides have been encountering different streams of convincing yet conflicting information. What makes this moment historically significant is that no single institution controls the change. Governments attempt regulation, technology companies introduce safeguards, researchers design detection tools. But the ongoing situation explains why so many people describe modern life using references drawn from science fiction or dystopian storytelling. Individuals are sensing that reality is arriving mediated, that there's some kind of boundary between the authentic experience and some kind of constructed representation. What this real-world development ultimately reveals is not that truth has disappeared, but that access to truth now requires greater intentional effort. Society is entering a period where trust must be rebuilt consciously rather than assumed. The challenge influencing millions today is therefore not simply technological change, but the rediscovery of how human judgment, responsibility, and shared standards sustain reality itself. The conclusion emerging from this analysis is pretty much straightforward. Humans relate to these narratives because modern conditions challenge traditional assumptions about knowledge, control, and meaning. Rapid technological advancement produces uncertainty about perception. Large institutional systems create distance between action and consequence. Global interconnection expands complexity beyond intuitive understanding. Fictional frameworks help individuals interpret these developments without abandoning the conviction in truth. We remain participants in shaping the environment that we inhabit. Technology, institutions, they all influence but don't determine our moral outcomes. Recognition of complexity should encourage responsibility rather than resignation. The same creative capacity that produced modern systems enables people to reform them. Great stories endure because they express enduring questions rather than temporary fears. Why does reality appear uncertain? How can individuals act responsibly within large systems? What grounds human dignity amid technological transformation? All those questions existed before the digital age, and they're going to persist beyond it. People invoke Philip K. Dick, The Matrix, Lovecraft, because those narratives articulate a shared intuition. that surface appearances may conceal deeper structures, and that understanding those structures matters for human freedom. The popularity of such stories indicates not a real cultural collapse, but our continued engagement and interest in fundamental philosophical concerns. Hope survives because individuals believe discovery remains possible. The search for truth continues precisely because humans experience themselves as oriented towards something real. Cultural metaphors change, but the underlying impulse remains constant. Humanity seeks understanding, responsibility, and alignment with a reality capable of sustaining meaning. Maybe the fear isn't that machines can lie or that reality can be faked. Maybe the fear is realizing how easily certainty was always constructed in the first place. We trusted images. We trusted voices. We've trusted institutions. Because we needed the world to be stable. But that stability is cracking. And beneath it sits the oldest question humanity has ever asked. What is true when belief collapses? Technology did not create this crisis. It revealed it. And truth still exists. And something in us insists that it does. The fact that millions recognize themselves within these stories really does demonstrate that the desire for truth has not disappeared and has adapted to these new conditions. That modern dystopian imagery serves not as surrender to despair, but as evidence that humans continue asking the oldest question: what is truly real, and how should we live in response to it? The future won't belong to better machines. It will belong to human beings willing to seek reality rather than comfort.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe.
But do we dare wake from this dream?
You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Thank you for listening. This is a free podcast based upon the value for value model. If you find value in this, or any episode, you can return that value by liking the show, subscribing to this channel, leaving a review, or sharing with a friend on your social media accounts. You can also donate on my website. Thank you again. This is BT for Truth and Shadow Podcast. You are the light in the darkness.
It's a very strange, funny time where everybody would love to be able to be themselves if they can.
And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. You take the red pill. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more. You stay in Wonderland. Believe whatever you want to believe.
Fight every battle, everywhere, always, in your mind.
Every possible series of events is happening all at once. Live that way, and nothing will surprise you. Everything that happens will be something that you've seen before.
Because they must fall in line with the person in front of them. You want to live that kind of life? I wish you the best. I'll be on the other side somewhere.
The truth, nothing more.
It's over. Go home.